EPA said the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. Have you met the other evidence of strength if you leave behind any original hardware on this 50 to 75-year-old structure? Let's go over the history of a typical structure. You build it in 1900, 25 to 50 years later, does it have a new roof? Does it have new windows? Does it have new electric? Does it have new plumbing? Does it have a new boiler? Does it have a new fire escape? No. Does it have at least some new fasteners on the fire escape? No. So here we are 75 years into it, and some of your buildings are 100, and what do you got still on there? You got an original fire escape. The steel is great. Guess where all the damage is occurring, based on the stuff you have in front of you? Where it meets somewhere. So if you have joint failure, can I load test it if it has joint failure? So it must pass an examination, so it must pass a confidence test first in order for us to load test it if that's the route you want to go. And what's the average load test fee, depending on the structure? 2 to 4 to 5,000 per level, and sometimes it's 5 to 10,000 per level because the thing's a big monster beast. Sometimes the thing is on some crazy side, you can't even get a lift, you can't even get a crane, you can't even get anything in there. Then you guys have the 200-pound rule, but you also have the separation rule where now you have to take the fire escape and say, okay, I need to load test just this thing, so I'm going to separate it from this, separate it from that, load test this, oh, for free? What's cheaper, load testing fire escapes or refurbishing fire escapes to satisfy the other evidence of strength? And they should have done this when? 25 to 50 years, did they? They never did, not just here, everywhere. So, load testing has its place, and we're going to talk about it, we're going to show it, but what has a better place now is refurbishment, because that's what you're supposed to be doing with these 50, 75, 100-year-old structures. You're supposed to be refurbishing all those square head bolts out of there, and all those rivets out of there, out. Oh, by the way, in case you have a very good bolt, square, and you have a very good rivet, because those are a pain in the tail to get out, and you have plenty of room on that plate, what else can I put there to avoid having to take out the square head bolt or the rivet? A new bolt next to it. If there's plenty of room, can I back it up and reinforce that rivet and that bolt? So that is also other evidence of strength. Now I'm at 200% of what that connection wanted. I got an original bolt and I got a brand new one. So the primary is the brand new one. What's the old one now become? Secondary, spare. Oh, this is another great one. This will throw everybody on. I found this out when I did my class in Philadelphia. Happened to be doing some research. Some of you don't even know this one. Ready? OSHA, 1910.37, says that this man cannot walk into any building and examine it if it doesn't have what? 2 means of egress. So when you're repairing a building, altering a building, changing something on an existing building, guess what OSHA says? You must first fix, not last fix. It says, during repairs or alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes required by the subpart are available and existing fire protections are maintained, or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides an equivalent level of safety. What that means is that a fire escape is, you first fix the fire escape and load test it, or you certify it, then you can put in electricians and contractors and everybody into there. But it does have an escape clause here. It says until equivalent level. So if somebody doesn't want to fix their fire escape and they want to make this bastard child of egress the last thing you touch, what do you need? You need an OSHA-approved scaffolding stair. And what's that give you? You get a second means of egress. Temporarily, right? But it's still an OSHA-approved stair, and what can you do with the building? You can fix it. You can issue a permit. But how many buildings in the city are being repaired right now where the fire escape is the last thing anybody wants to talk about, and you can't have anybody in there because that company is now breaking the OSHA code of 1910.37, which says maintenance, safeguards, and operational features are for exit routes. You can imagine how I threw Philadelphia on its head, and they're like, what? So guys, write that now. 1910.37 is a great thing to pull out of your pocket when somebody's giving you a hard time, saying, oh, 30 years, nobody's ever, you guys are just trying to find other ways of making income, you guys are just being paid, say, listen to me. If anybody gets hurt in your building right now, you have a bigger lawsuit then, because you don't have 2 means of egress during the repairs and alterations. So I'm not telling you to fix this fire escape, I'm telling you to rent that scaffolding for $1,000 a month. And you can mothball this thing, and you can probably block it off and do all those things you do to the fire escape, so nobody goes up, nobody goes down, and nobody fixes any windows near it. And then you have this scaffolding over here, and take as long as you want fixing this building. Because you are eventually, at the end, what are you gonna do to the fire escape? You're gonna fix it. And if you spot repair it, what are you gonna do to it? So you're gonna load test it, and then at what? 100 or 200? How many engineers are confident in load testing a 50, 75, 100-year-old wall? Are you guys doing wall analysis prior to load testing it at 200 times? Is that something that comes into your mind when you look at some of these buildings where the walls are slightly, due to age? Is there any concern that a wall test must be done prior to a load test of the fire escape at 200 pounds? Is anybody, this is a question for the engineer. Has anybody forced a wall evaluation prior to a load test? You did?
Once, yeah.
And tell us the reason why. What occurred that made you say, you know what, I'm not even...
A lot of these walls these 100-year-old buildings are already cracked up anyway. So we had them replace the fire escape. It's too much of a mess.
And with that, did you say, we don't trust the wall, we want legs to the ground, so you made an independent...
We didn't, it was sidewalks, we couldn't go down to the ground, but we rebuilt it.
Oh, so you didn't do a load test on the fire escape, you refurbished it to avoid the load test?
Because the cost to do the load test and fix the wall and everything else was too much, I said just replace it, it was cheaper.
Yeah, so you just took the whole fire escape and basically put back what was there. Oh, by the way, the code says you can't build any new fire escapes on new construction. So you dig a hole in the ground, there's no new fire escape going up, ever, unless you have some crazy, something that and that happened once in my life, they actually, years later, but they had a permit from 10 years ago that finally came into play. No new fire escapes, ever. But if you happen to have any existing building, mansion, factory, box, garage, outhouse, that has a second level on it, and you want to turn that into residential, guess what your answer is always going to be? If you've exhausted all means of putting it in the inside of your building, because that mansion has a beautiful central stairways, chimney stack right in the middle, and you're going to put 4 apartments to the right and 4 apartments to the left, guess what you're going to throw on that building? 2 fire escapes. You know who's going to deny you? No one. Because you can build fire escapes, but you know how many get built on average? 97% of the fire escapes in the United States get rebuilt. 3% of them get replaced, because there's still enough meat in a lot of these fire escapes that you can just rebuild them. So it's not, replacing is not always the answer, but every now and then new ones are getting built, and they get built by iron workers. That's all they get built by. They get built by guys who do railings and window guards. They have a shop, and they'll build these all day long, properly designed by an architect and an engineer in the shop drawings, and a lot of times it's copying the exact same layout of an existing fire escape that already exists. 40-foot trails, 36-inch wide, 7-11 rise and run, stringers. There's nothing new there. But you can build fire escapes today, but not on new construction. But on pre-existing, so if you have some old buildings in your city, guess what's coming? To satisfy any kooky egress plan. You have some crazy tower apartment in the back corner, guess what will satisfy that tower apartment? 1 fire escape. Even if the rest of the building has its 2 means of egress, you have this kooky thing and somebody wants to buy the kooky condo on the tower, on the watchtower, guess what's coming? There's going to be a fire escape there. And it can't be denied. So OSHA 1910.37, that's just one more thing that you guys can help. Because what happens if an inspector is in the building? Oh, by the way, most fires occur during renovations and construction activities. Is there a lot of fires that occur at job sites?
There are a number of them that occur during that phase.
What happens if you get hurt while you're inspecting that building, there's no second means of egress? Is the city assuming some liability? Because you're not supposed to be going into or allowing anything to occur on any building that doesn't have 2 means of egress. So if all of a sudden you're in a building, telling them, writing them up on whatever, and all of a sudden you get hurt in this building because somebody runs into the front stairway, a car runs into the front stairway, starts a fire there, where's everybody getting out? Including yourself, and you're in the building. So there's the opening liability for the city that says, we're not supposed to be allowing buildings, because OSHA says if it doesn't have 2 means of egress, during its alterations and repairs, who's also assuming some of the liability if they let it continue? So in Philadelphia, they took another look at this and they said, you know what, we need to go back in some of our permits and see what's going on. And the quick fix is what? Fixing the fire escape or putting up scaffolding? So it's not a costly issue. It's not a $30 or $50 or $100,000 problem. It's saying, we just noticed this, get some scaffolding up, or quickly give me a plan to fix this fire escape right away while you're still doing this one-year project. We need this up right away. Otherwise, put scaffolding up for a year and I'll just walk away. I'm gonna be happy. Okay? Confidence tests, we already showed you where they are. So here's our model city in the city of Lowell, right? We use the, again, offline PDF, Word document, and it's all changeable, so we did that. It's a questionnaire. Tacoma was at our class in Seattle. We like what Tacoma did, so we have a 5-year rule. We talked about this with you. We have a 1-year rule for Tacoma. They make, not the engineers sign off of 1 year, they make the building managers sign up the 1 year. So if you have the 1-year inspections on a lot of your commercial, this is like 3 questions, ready? Bolts and supports are not damaged or rusted. Paint is in good condition, and all moving parts and ladders and catwalks, you know, doors open and windows open. Right? Now, you're gonna love this one, ready? And let's say you're on one of your buildings in Tacoma or here, and you have a roof ladder, and you have a cantilever, and you do your walkthrough, and you get, you know, the batteries are good, and the smokes are good, that 1-year inspection that you do. Then you say, I need by 1 year, because no engineers are needed, and you say, I need that 1 year that says your maintenance guy has been checking the fire escape. So can you do me a favor? He says, yeah, I got it right here for you. Here it is. And it's the 1 year. The guy goes, no, I need you to show it to me in action. So can you please, I'll go downstairs, hold the cantilever, I need you to walk to the roof, Mr. Maintenance Guy, climb over the gooseneck, come down, walk the whole thing, release the cantilever, come down and hand me this document. What's that going to do for Portland Fire?
Increase our ground volume for even that.
What's it get? What means that?
It'll be a negotiated increase in pay.
So this is basically going to trigger the owners of the building to self-maintain itself. Because at that time, the maintenance guy may say, what?
No way.
So I ain't doing that. So they hire who? And these guys go over the gooseneck, which is, then nobody really looks at these goosenecks. But it's the one thing that you guys know that in your fire escapes, unlike the rest of the nation, you guys have this crazy 100-foot ladder on the outside, just for you guys. Nobody in the country does that. And you guys climb this crazy ladder on the outside while everybody is on the inside stair coming down, drinking their teas and having. Nobody does that. Everybody shares the same fire escape, you know what I'm saying? But you guys climb this crazy ladder all the way to the roof and then gooseneck over. The rest of the country has fire escape stairs and cantilevers and stuff. Only at the very top do they have this ladder with a gooseneck up against the inside of the platform up there. Crazy. So I like the checklist. I don't know if you guys have incorporated, but this gets the ownership involved on a 1 year. So every 5 years it's the engineers. Every year, as part of the whole 1 year inspection of commercial, you guys involve the ownership. Portland Fire and Rescue. You guys got the copy here. And he made out a copy here before he went onto the internet, which changed the format out of it a little bit. Everything is covered in here. When I say you guys are #1 right now in the nation, you guys have put more effort into #1, and I think this changed the code in the state of Oregon. You guys are the #1. There's a code change. And what do they have here? Including tags, right?
Yes, and we'll actually be touching on the tags a little bit later.
Yeah, and I have some examples of tags here. It's on the last page. Guess where those came from? Guess who does that? Your neighbor to the north, Seattle. Seattle used to have this little bitty tag. You know what they have now? 17 inches by 11 inches high, and I'll show you an example of it, of red, white, and yellow tags. So guess what, when you're doing your inspections and you got a nice white tag, 7 to 10 feet off the ground on a fire escape, right? And you can see the words clearly and who the last inspector was. Guess what happens when you read the date that says, in 2013, there's an exam due. You have to go back to your office and check, or is it right there in your face? So, Seattle's doing this already, and they're the ones that we're basically using as a model. Let me show you a couple of example tags. I have them out. These are 8.5 by 11s. I'll send 2 down this way. I'll send 1 down this way. You guys can just take a turn. They're usually wrapped in plastic, or in Seattle, they make it printed on 1/8 vinyl stock plastic. So 17 inches by 11 inches.
And this is Portland's new version.
Oh.
And what's really sad, I mean, special about this shows the year that it was inspected and tested. The affidavits on file, these are actually attached to their forms, ready to be posted. We'll be doing a metal wire tag on these toward the bottom end of the fireman's ladder. So anybody coming up to use it's going to be looking at this and saying, 2013, that's good. There's one that's, because we're cheap, has been slightly modified to show the 2011 date. Not the best modification, but it's my fault. And we'll have a number of 2012s that will end up being modified that way too, because Bob didn't want to spend the money on it. On the back is going to be handwritten, the information related to the location and stuff. Stealing some of the information off the Seattle tag for that. That's again an economic issue as to why we ended up with that. The unsafe tag is going to be
Great information.
Well,
It's new to me. I'm hearing this for the
yeah,
first
that's
time.
not secret from him. The unsafe tag, they decided at the last minute after the unsafe tags were ordered that unsafe is a bad word to put on the fire escape. So they're still trying to figure out what the terminology is going to be for one that's a piece of garbage that you guys are trying to fix.
Well, it says here, fire escape is out of service.
Yeah.
That's what Seattle says.
Yeah.
Fire escape has deficiencies. If it's going to be, it needs to be repaired. And it says fire escape it has no deficiencies. But may I see that tag for a second? I'm going to show you something. This normally doesn't happen in a college town, but they want to put one of these in my car for the American license plate. So the biggest thing that they had is you got to be careful is if you handwrite this on the back and you have this tag, and my fire escape has a problem, would I even think of stealing my neighbor's tag and handwriting my own stuff on the back just to keep you off of me? So you got to be careful. One of the things that they did in Seattle, and this is our version is 8.5 by 11 to be made here, and you can modify it. It has everybody's information, including the engineers, including the date, and including the month, so that you basically 2013 when, January or June or when. But the beauty about their tag that was 11 by 17, it has to be printed at a Staples or a place, because these are custom made. But they need more information on there, so that way they can see if it's a false tag or not.
How long has Seattle been doing it? And the reason that I ask is, what's the burden on their inspectors to keep these tags current? And how are they keeping up with it? When I have a fire escape that's certified in 2013, how do we know that we're keeping up on it, changing tags? And one that's been out of service, has it been redone? It takes a lot of manpower just to go through the fire escapes that we have here in Portland. So how is Seattle managing their workforce and keeping their tags current?
Well, and I've mentioned for you to call Jay up there. In Seattle, they don't have a fire prevention like you guys have here. They rely on the captains of the firehouses to basically do what you guys do. So how do you think it's being managed?
Okay.
So with that, you have to make it as idiot-proof as possible. When you put a tag on a fire escape, it has a date on it. It's made so that when you're doing your normal inspections, like an elevator tag, you look up it, you just know that it's due in June of 2015. That's all you need. You get beyond that date, you're already writing a violation just by looking at a tag. So the tag is what you need to go through. The first thing you do is get a tag on every fire escape. Good or not, you just need a tag. And the tag is, if it was done correctly, you just gotta get a white tag or a green. Are you going green?
Green for the number.
Green for the pass, right? So if it has green tags and it has a date, the only thing you may want to have on it is like, is there a space for the month or not? But the second, otherwise everybody's going to think they have to do it in January or sometime in that year. I know you have to figure that out, so nobody loses a half a year. God forbid somebody loses a half a year. Because 5 years is like renting a car. I want it at 12 o'clock, you get it tomorrow at 12 o'clock, you're not getting it at 8 o'clock in the morning, So, but in Seattle, so by putting up the tags, that's the process, just getting everybody tagged. Your neighbor sees a tag on yours, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you better get a tag, otherwise, because it's triggered by your pre-plans. You guys do a lot of pre-plans?
We have an automated system that's
Right.
going to kick up the reminders for us.
So reminders on the pre-plans is, as you're doing a pre-plan on this building, if you don't see tags on these fire escapes, it's just a write-up. Where's your sticker? And you're only gonna get one of 3 stickers. The stickers that you're gonna get is a green one because an engineer or a design professional came in and certified the fire escape for you, so that's the green. Otherwise, you're getting an automatic yellow, or if you see a dangling tread, you get an automatic red. It doesn't matter, and that's why when I made it by 8.5 by 11, it lets you carry yellows and reds. During your examination of a building, you look outside and you see the fire escape is in nothing evident, nothing's dangling. You're not inspecting the fire escape, you're just putting its first tag, and it's a yellow tag that says you're in 30 days, please have it examined. It's gonna go green by who? Not by you. It's gonna be an engineer that's gonna make it go green. Otherwise, that tag stays in there because you were doing other things in the building. That's why I made it 8.5, because the 11 by 17s are a bear, they're huge. But let's look at them, they're here. Here's your checklist. This means for all your engineers that you gotta pass a confidence test before you can go to a load test or before you can certify it in lieu of a load test, which is other evidence of strength. So what we've done, this here started what's called Departmental Procedures and Guidelines, which basically means when somebody writes something, it doesn't always get interpreted by everybody the same way. So they have the right, every fire department, every building department has the right to write what's called Departmental Procedures and Guidelines, which is their interpretation of what they think the code means and what they're sort of holding as guidelines. So if you're an engineer, this is what you gotta read. If you're a repair guy, this is what you gotta read using this guy's criteria. Oh, by the way, did I ruin it for everybody? The EPA has stepped in and did what to all fire escapes older than 1978? Lead paint. Now that is another problem because the EPA and the OSHA, did they have a coffee break meeting together? So EPA says, listen, wear the little white suits, wear the little gloves, put a little mask, scrape, no power, sandblasting, no nothing. Collect the chips down below on a piece of plastic, wrap it up, throw it in a bag, and do what? Paint the fire escape right afterwards, right? OSHA said what? No. We want full oxygen tanks, we want the whole thing, we want the thing blocked off, we want blood draws. Why? Because you're touching lead. The EPA says if you get caught burning a fire escape, touching a fire escape, welding on a fire escape older than 1978, how much is the fine? Anybody know here? Vendors? $35,000 per violation. The building department is doing what about that? Nothing, because they're not going to get cut. You say, I'm not going to enforce that law. Yeah, I'm going to help the guy write a $35,000 fine and get what for it? So currently, a lot of these vendors are scraping and painting fire escapes, not using the little maskies, and because it's still OSHA says one thing. So because you're supposed to, OSHA says blood draws, full oxygen, negative vacuum, thousands of dollars, better cheaper to replace it. So that's where things are going. It's getting crazy. EPA says little masky, a white thing for $3 and scrape and collect and throw it away in the trash bag, probably with the gooseneck. You have to go that 8-hour class. By the way, how do you get a renovator's license? $150 to $250, weekend course, 8 hours. You show up in the morning, you have some coffee in the middle of the day. By the end of the day, what do you get? You get a little certificate that says you are EPA renovator license, and then you send $300 to who? EPA. They make more money getting people licensed on the EPA renovator's license, which came in 2010, by the way, so we're 3 years deep into it already. But the OSHA, they are conflicting. Got it? So, but this tells you the paint guidelines, and the EPA is mentioned in there. Oh, here's the tags. Ready? This is what a red one looks like. This is what a white one looks like. See all the room for all the information, guys? Who the examining engineer is, what date, what month, when's the next one due. Here's what it looks like on a building. You think you can see that? This is ours, 8.5 by 11. That's 17 by 11 inches. 11 inches tall, 17 inches wide. 7 to 10 feet off the ground, permanently affixed to the fire escape. When you're doing your walkthroughs on a building, can you see that? Can you read it? Do you know when the next examination is due? So that's what this is all about, guys. In the next 3 to 5 years, just put tags on fire escapes. Don't worry about whether they're certified or not, because who is this really for? If you have your guys running down an alleyway 2 years from now, and they run into a green, what do? They use it. They see anything else but green, what do? So if the guy you put a yellow or a red tag on hasn't done anything on his building for 6 months, a year, or 2, what do you care? What doesn't it have on it? A green. So now, the rule is correct when you say to everybody, in case of fire, never use the fire escape? No. In case of fire and it looks green, get on it. Anything that doesn't have a green sticker on it, what do? Get off. And it should have a tag on it. A tag that says it's either a red, which is out of service, which would cause us a whole other rules when it's out of service, because that could shut down a building. But if it's yellow and it's under the examination and you made a few phone calls and you have the process in hand, guess what? Now the fire department and the owner of the building is sort of working things out, moving things along. Got it? But Seattle's doing it. This is their fire escapes. Are they doing every tag? There's a lot of tags, a lot. And so, but the problem is, imagine the fire captains, the ones that are writing the violations.
Cisco, we need to take a break.
Sure.
About 10 minutes. Restrooms are right back down in this hallway here, nothing over here. And we'll do that.
If anybody has any questions, I can hang out here, or I can hang in the middle here and talk to you briefly.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, first here? No sign. That's great.
All right.
It's on a run, right? So it doesn't affect.
Now I gotta issue a citation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought it was around an hour.
We're just hanging around here. Our guys are going to be coming after us.
Yeah.
That was the next one.
You know what you may want to have? You may have an A or B, so that A was for 6 months, B was done in June, June 4, so it's the same grade, but by having an A or a B, it tells you whether it's the first. Well, yeah, it's when it's done. Exactly.
Hopefully, with our 3-month fire notification.
Yeah, again, you're talking about the building department side of things? Yeah, yeah, once I get through some more rust, we're gonna dig into that.
Yeah, that's,
Everyone I did.
So if you did minor repairs, then you were doing the right thing anyway. Had you done a full refurb, you basically have enough to come back to the city officials and say, hey, here's what we'll give you other evidence, right, that size all three ways, and we don't want you to set much fire, we don't want you to get too much. Because, as you know, some of the costs are that activity, like huge, it gets outrageously costly. Some of these bigger fire escape plans, all you really need to do is just maintain the structure. So you don't look at the walls, you don't let this roof, you basically verify it and provide evidence of strength that it's still good order. With looking at the same thing that they made that provision. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up because Eugene did that, and here's the problem with that, it was called reverse calculation. It's calculated load test. To me, the way we're looking at it, calculated load test is basically you going there, you're spending a lot of time measuring everything on the flat, then proving it is this. So this is how you basically are 75 years ago, didn't have this computer that it will hold on a pound. So you can have it, all you've done is basically prove that it's built 200 pounds. Not that it either load tested like 400 pounds or that you have some other evidence to prove that it's really. So in some cases, if you go there, every bolt on part of the structure, and then the city official they said we're still not totally separate. Not fire department, building department, because they didn't know what was going on, so they basically, to justify their check, they basically come in, basically, instead of low test, they reverse engineered it, for lack of a better word, to prove with a full-blown drawing of the existing structure that the fire escape would, if any low test there, be 100 pounds. Yes, even though you change every pass on the fire escape, and you provide other great cost. So the first step is to have the city official who is second guessing everything, and all of a sudden saying, you know what, let me tell you what the thing is. Building official, tell you how to be an engineer. Still has reverse calculus and everybody created crazy. It's basically through a curveball. That's why I asked out there one day, that's how we can get that a building official. You know, right now, you have this thing, that's gonna go, like I can say, that's not what you're gonna say. We just eliminate slack. Building department, yes, you can. You can open up a wall and spend $500 to open up a wall. You can do the same, or like I said here, basically nullify that by putting well, I'm going to talk about how far things are built. Anyway, so let me introduce these guys here. Anybody else have any questions before we get back and start any specific questions so far? What we've seen? Oh, yeah?
Well, is that something that's supposed to be?
And some a lot of and you say it with a good accent. Snag things, it's triangular, and they think that that's like the third generation CTR. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Oh, really? Yeah, so when I was in the military. Air Force Base. Yeah, so I went, I did just a temporary course. And I was the one who lived in the chamber. That's how we catch a lot of the content. No, but you got to be drunk or whatever, the full spectrum guys. Oh, yeah, yeah, that hurt, that helps. Yeah. I know even a job there.
So when I got there and I was amazed, yeah, and so they were all
That's my firefighter, and that is just the airport. But I got it about 6, 7 years old. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, there's a lot of times, the only reason, you know that, during the whaling channel, the Azores was the mecca of whales. Everybody came from the US, from Florida, take a ship that takes 60 people. Go to 15 people. You load it up with 25. Azores, we all have to go already. Go 6 months out, and then you end up back and forth. Everybody writes a letter back to their everybody, hey, we have the dog and such and such a time. And so that's why a large population. That's the sailors got a sword. After a while, and that's when, but in regards to the bullfights, that's, over there, they basically, bullfighting restrictions in the Chinese. On the ropes. The guys on ropes and the guys.
anything they mentioned in that town is all covered, but it's on the ropes.
Yeah, there's a line, on the street. Everybody ends up over the wall. And then run back and forth, bulls, they get you. All right, guys, let's continue.
Bring it on back, guys.
You got any more? How's it going? Albert? And anybody else came in since the class started? No? How about one more?
Rob, is the chair up here or over here?
Anybody else came in since? No? Oh, you are. All right, so let's continue. So we talked about the tags. Let's see if this thing is. There you go. And you want to kill this light over here? The one over here? So let's talk about rust. So during the examination, this is what you got to look for. This is actually on a detention center for kids 17 and younger. So when you first walk up to it, right? But when you look underneath it, what do we got? Plenty of rust. In a case that we were involved in, a metallurgist proved to us that a quarter inch of rust needs 25 years to grow. So you leave a connection unchecked, depending on what side of the building it's on, it's going to take about 25 years for it to grow a quarter inch of rust. How long do you think it's going to take to grow half inch of rust? So look at this connection here. Look at all these connections here. Look at all these connections here. And guys, as an engineer, why do you need to carry a 3-pound sledgehammer? Why do you need to do the ping pong test? Because I'll tell you, a lot of you guys, if you look at some of these connections here, if you take a look at the bolts, can somebody start grabbing some of those bolts that we left there? Some of those bolts basically look great on the outside. Some of these bolts look great on the outside, because look where we have to cut it to get the nut off, or the head off. Look where the nut is, and what's in the middle. Some of them, you got little nails that they've sharpened to a point. Before the firefighters get on in there, that's what they're worried about. But the examination process that you go, you have to determine whether you even want to walk this fire escape as an engineer. The 3-pound hammer test is that when you ping the front nose of a tread, what do you get? You're gonna get a ping or a pong. When you get a ping, what that means, even though you might see a little bit of rust in there. When you get a ping, what do you get? It's good connection, you know, the shafts are still probably there, you're getting a ping, you're getting a ringer, you're ringing a bell, and the bell is that tread and that stringer, you're getting a ping. And when you get a pong, what do you got? A pong is when that 1 inch of rust has grown enough, has separated, and when you ping the tread, you get a pong, what happens? So whether this is during, that's why fire inspectors don't walk fire escapes anymore. You're gonna look out a door, look down, or you're gonna look at the ground and look up, and you're gonna get enough information to determine whether or not they've had changed any fasteners. But in the engineers, when you guys walk it, you better start carrying a 3-pound little baby sledgehammer, and you gotta ping your way up. Otherwise, this is what occurs. Get it? I think that's it. So sometimes you've got rust compression happening there, and that's all that's holding you. So whether you're going up the fire escape or down the fire escape with gear on, the fireman slams his foot into a tread, and it falls. And we have a case that we were involved in that happened to a fireman with 3 treads let go, and he fell through all 3 treads, landed down below. So when you do your inspections, first visual is this thing safe to walk on? Second is have a 3-pound hammer. This is not for you guys. This is for the engineers. When they walk up, they ping the job going up. And every now and then when you ping the stairs, you gotta look at the 2 connections for the stringer at the top and the 2 connections at the bottom to say what? Is the whole stair safe? Is it properly hooked on top, which some of them are not? And is it properly notched at the bottom to rest on the piece below? So that's the safety. Otherwise, sometimes they cut the whole bottom and there's nothing there and the bottom is full of rust. So as you're pinging the staircase, what happens to the whole staircase? So, damage, truck damage. Look at all the damage that occurs out there. This is all natural. Some of these things you get there, they're natural through snow, through weight, nobody fell through these things. They just fell by themselves because they just let rot and they let these bolts go. You know what this place is? This is a city hall. I don't know if you can see it there, but there's 3 or 4 treads dangling over there. Right? And if you guys think these guys are not paying attention, how about these guys? These guys ain't paying attention either. Anybody know